Namaste, good afternoon. I'm Tony Cho, and I'm blessed and honored to be here in Dharamsala, India, with these three venerable, beautiful human beings, compassionate warriors. Namaste.
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 I'm here with Dr. Robert Thurman, Priyadarshi, David Kittay, Professor Kittay from Columbia University, and we have gathered an incredible group of people that we're calling the Upaya Collective. And we've all traveled from all corners of the earth to be here to visit His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, a Nobel Peace Laureate, one of the most inspiring humans in the world, that's inspiring compassion and compassion teachings around the world. And with three of potentially the most knowledgeable people in the space around Tibetan Buddhism and the teachings of the Dalai Lama. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Maybe you guys could tell me what was the genesis of this trip. How did it come together?
The Dalai Lama has reached the age of 87. He has traveled for 40 plus years to the West and all over the world. It's inspiring leaders and people to be kind. His slogan has been, "My religion is kindness." He has very purposefully restrained from converting or trying to convert anybody to Buddhism. And he has told, like the three popes and various other religious leaders, that too late in history to go around competing for market share in religions, and that we should all find the truth in each other and make world peace, and that's been his thing. So now he is less able because of his age, although he's very, very healthy, but the Tibetan people wish him to stay a long time to be their protector and their cherished leader. And so he won't be able to travel like that. So there is a movement afoot by us and many others to try to enact his wishes of a more compassionate, kinder, more nonviolent and peaceful world society, past the age of extreme nationalism and wars and all this kind of thing, and oppression, and also to deal with the climate issue. And so there's a movement afoot, and we are just part of that movement, are part of that movement, trying to, Upaya means art of enacting compassion, and that's what we're trying to do.
The art of acting compassion, helping others to achieve enlightenment.
That's right, and enlightenment meaning happiness, freedom from suffering, not just some bulb in your head,
Right.
A happy life, so people can have a good life on this beautiful planet.
Thank you. And David, how did this come together? How did the Upaya Collective come together? How did this manifest?
Well, some of it, first of all, everyone has been ignited by the Dalai Lama's enthusiasm, vision, and by Bob's incredible optimism
overcome the defeatism that
and energy,
gets us.
which is so necessary in today's times when we're all facing a real problem here. So this came together. The notion of Upaya Collective, the name came from Gandon Thurman, Bob's son.
He's the current CEO of Tibet House USA.
Who runs Tibet House USA, and then many of these amazing people were brought into this group by my son, David Kittay.
My brother, Jambavanjaya.
Yes, and we're of course blessed here with Venerable Priyadarshi, who is just a font of wisdom of all kinds and an extremely chill guy. And so this came together very quickly. We were contemplating it, and then we were told, it would take too long to plan. And then Ludwig Kuttner on our board said, you know what? I'm going to make a challenge grant of $1 million, and let's go see the Dalai Lama. And all of a sudden everything was ignited. It all came together. Here we are. And the people who are here are really a collective of so many incredible geniuses. And so what we're trying to do is come up with both specific things and a general theme to realize that His Holiness's idea of nothing less than a revolution, because that's really what we need, a revolution of the heart taking place in every being, from top down, bottom up, and every place in between.
It's so beautiful, a revolution from within. Priyadarshi, so tell us a little bit about how you got to this point and your journey a little bit in this journey here to Dharamsala with these beautiful men.
Well, I have a long-standing relationship with Bobla, and then I met David as a fellow board member of Tibet House. And as Bobla mentioned, we are in a state of like an inflection point with His Holiness turning 87. And we are beginning to see that perhaps there's an opening after the pandemic and the world in its current state, that there is something that the Tibetan culture and the Buddhist wisdom can offer to the world. And but it needs to be told in a new way. It needs to be experienced in a new way.
A new narrative.
A new narrative, a new platform for that narrative.
Right.
And so that's why we were able to bring together this delightful, eclectic group of entrepreneurs, young individuals who are exploring spiritual questions, but at the same time all united by their common love for this planet and common love for humanity. And here we are in Dharamsala, exchanging ideas, joyfully, delightfully, trying to figure out what the next steps should be.
And so we will be having an audience with His Holiness after this confab of collective co-creation of what is the next way and the next platform, leveraging technology, perhaps Web3, perhaps new modes of expression within the world to bring this consciousness, this compassion, this revolution from within to the world to heal the place that we're in, which is a very troubled world that we find ourselves. What are some of the topics that you think that we'll be speaking with His Holiness when we meet with him on Friday? What would you like to gain out of this?
I think, we'll hear from both Bobla and David. I think, His Holiness is just an ocean of wisdom. That's what he is, you see. So there are two, I think, major things. One is simply to bathe in his presence.
Yes.
It's sort of this continuation of this old idea of darshan, just to be in his presence. Mm-hmm. And the second thing is to just hear his wisdom as to what and how he believes his message, his methods, his vision for humanity will continue to inspire us, and how we can help manifest it. That's what Tibet House is. Bobla,
Yes.
what is Tibet House?
Well, His Holiness, when he first came to the States in '79, he asked me and the late Mrs. Dominique de Menil in Houston, Texas, to work on, actually my ex-mother-in-law, to work on developing a culture center for Tibet. And the model of that is there is a Tibet House in New Delhi that's sort of like a cultural embassy that represents the existence of the Tibetan people with a distinctive culture and language and etc. against the world's misinformed opinion that Tibetans don't really exist, that they're just a kind of province of China, which they really never were until they were invaded in the 1950s and 60s. And so he asked for this cultural center, and then in '86, Richard Gere joined with us. His Holiness asked him to. Richard Gere, whose interest is more political activism, but he joined the cultural activism thing for a few years and helped us a lot get started. And we have been presenting Tibetan art and Tibetan knowledge and very much Tibetan mental science. And this has gone along with a process where His Holiness has met with materialists, what in ancient Indian science they would call outer sciences, that is the materialists, biology, physics, and this kind of thing. And His Holiness and the Tibetan tradition has preserved and refined and developed the Indian mind science tradition, how to change the heart, how to change the psyche, how to cultivate compassion and wisdom and so on. And so we've been working on that, translating the great books that came from India that contain the sort of 1,000 years of progress made by the great Indian masters, Indian Buddhist masters, and then another 1,000 years of the Tibetan masters developing that further, bringing that back out into the world from the Tibetan treasury of that sort of thing. So, and then in the future, when the Chinese decide to finally recognize that Tibetan culture and the Tibetan people are a kind of jewel that really belongs to the whole world, just like the high plateau, source of all Asia's rivers, is really, it should be an open park for the whole world, not to be spoiled in any way.
And that was the Dalai Lama's dream. One of his dreams was to make Tibet one of the biggest parks in the world.
Yeah, yeah, it's like the
preserved park.
Switzerland of Asia.
Right.
His
Right.
Switzerland of dream.
Which is
And
a
the-
metaphor of what needs to happen around the world to
That's
protect
right.
the wild
That's right.
biodiversity that we're now losing.
That's right, and so China was a very strongly Buddhist. They also had Taoism and Confucianism, but they were a very strong Buddhist country for 2,000 years until the communist time, and after that they've been kind of chewed up in imperialisms of various kinds. They turned to communism, which is really a Western religion, you know,
Right.
but because of their love of Buddhism, the emperors of China would always keep Tibet on the crowns of their head and support them and would seek their prayers and seek their good vibes, you know, and their intervention with the weather deities to keep the rivers flowing and the prosperity growing on their land. And now these guys, the communist guys, don't sort of get that, but they will. We're confident that they will, because the Chinese people have a very strong spiritual element in them, like every other human being. And we have no doubt, it's been a very long time for His Holiness, 70 years, waiting for the leadership to catch up with the hearts of their own people, in fact, you know.
Right.
And we're confident that will happen, and at that point, the role of Tibet House will be the kind of foundation to help fund the reconstruction of so much of Tibet's own cultural treasures. In no way is, of course, can we go back to a pre-modern sort of like complete turmoil that Tibet has happened to Tibet in the last 50, 70 years, but a version 2.0, a Tibetan culture
Right.
2.0,
Right.
interactive with the modern world.
Right.
And with Tibet being a kind of sanatorium, healing center, and peace center for all the big countries and the big nations of Asia. That's the dream, and we're sure that that will be realized. And we feel that that will be realized within the lifetime of the present Dalai Lama. So it's our own kind of singularity. He's promised to live another 23 years, which brings us to the singularity of 2045, but there'll be a spiritual singularity, which will be the liberation of Tibet and the offering of Tibet as a jewel to the whole, to the healing use of the whole world, and hopefully in parallel with all other oppressed people in every part of the world. You know, the change of the world system where each individual local culture is allowed and encouraged to support the ecology of their local areas underneath a kind of peaceful, non-violent, non-militarized world government, taking all the military budgets of all the nations and putting them into reconstructing and regenerating life on this planet. We're sure that that will happen, and we feel that Dalai Lama's inspiration and refusal to admit defeat for the human race and for all the animals as well on the planet, we feel that that will prevail.
Amen. Well said. Bravo. So the 2045 goal to save the planet, save humanity, save consciousness in the lifetime of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. There's a question. He is getting older. Who is going to be his successor? Will it be a man? Will it be a woman? Will it be the collective? The great teacher Thich Nhat Hanh from Vietnam said the next leader will be the collective.
Yeah, he said he will reincarnate as the collective.
And he will reincarnate as the collective.
Yeah. And by the way, we're not putting down, we're welcoming at this moment Ray Kurzweil and Google's singularity, where everyone will be micro robot, a nano level robot, So
Right.
some people who want to stay in their present embodiments, they can be reinforced by nanobots, which is his vision of the singularity of 2045. And we're not scared of the Terminator Series 10. We don't care.
Right.
We're sure that they're going to be nice because the people who are going to program them are going to be nice. So that'll be fine.
So
well, in a way, though, our pilgrimage here is a microcosm of what's happening, because what's happening also, and His Holiness has talked about this, is the future is for the youth, right? And women are very important to all of us,
Yes.
although we sit here as 4 men. But there are many people all over the world who are doing amazing things right now, and one of our visions for Tibet House going forward is to support all of those, and because we have the great good fortune of being exposed to Tibetan wisdom, which emphasizes the connection and causation of everything that's happening in the world, we would like to help in whatever way we can coordinate the efforts of so many people who are doing all these wonderful things, and somehow to kindle a new spirit. I keep coming back to a revolutionary spirit, because the time is really now. And so with Tibet House, as with the entire world, it's going to the youth, right? So we're not getting any younger, although Venerable Tenzin is a young man. But it should go to the youth. It should go to women and men, of course. But let's work together. Let's have harmony. Let's find something that will really trigger the hearts of people to be open. You know, every day there are hundreds of thousands of bodhisattvas doing good acts for each other. They don't get much publicity, okay, because we just hear kind of negative news cycle, which is driven in part by capitalist mentality, get people to tune in and buy things. Let's get over that. Let's wake up. And this is what His Holiness has been telling us, and it's up to us to figure out how to do that now. And that's collective. That involves many young people, Upaya Collective, but also I can't help but notice that who gets killed in the wars? Mostly the young people. Who knows really how to program about artificial intelligence? Young people. Who are the ones operating the drones that go and kill people? Young people killing each other. So we say, young people, let's wake up, and somehow let's go to the next level. Instead of this parochialism, egoism, tribalism, even nationalism, let's go to humanism, all of us together.
Here's the Humanism 2045. Bob, I would be honored and appreciate in my community back at home, my satsang, Kashi Ashram, Neem Karoli Baba, Kashi Ashram, who I know that you have a relationship with.
Yes, I do.
And you wear a pendant of Neem Karoli Baba, and I would be so grateful if you would offer a message to the community and the Swamis and Kashi
Sure.
and my grandmother, Ma.
Well, you know, the fourth aim in life, His Holiness has 4 life aims as a human being for transformative values, which the Venerable Priyadarshi is representing at, of all places, MIT. Masters Institute of Technology. He has the Dalai Lama Center for Ethics and Transformative Values. So that's his first aim in life, and the Venerable Priyadarshi is enacting that, has been for years in many countries around the world, compassionate leadership, wonderfully. Second one, as a Buddhist monk, better understanding between world religions so that there's no longer this competition for market share, conflict, feeling that only their religion is the way, but able to share with others the good things in each one of their religion, and he affirms all of that. And third one is as a Tibetan to try to get a fair shake and a freedom for his people in whatever way, but within whatever federation and whatever thing is fine. He's called for non-violent freedom movement rather than a violent one. And fourth aim, though, is since he says that his body, he's lived longer in India than he lived in Tibet, and his body is more made of rice and dal than it is of momo, and he feels he has a debt to India, and he and the Tibetan culture are the son of the great Buddhist universities of India, Nalanda and Vikramashila and Ratnagiri, many of them, and hundreds of them. And he wants to bring a knowledge that was lost about 800 years ago in India, the Buddhist side of the sort of Buddhist-Hindu dialogue that went on for 1700 years from Buddha's time. And he wants to bring that back, not as Buddhism, he's not trying to convert a single Hindu to Buddhism, but as Indian inner science. And the knowledge of the knowledge from which yoga came, and which all the wonderful mental things that came that are the heart of Indian culture. And so in that light, you know, I see in the effort of enacting His Holiness's fourth aim, I feel it's important that Buddhists realize that Maharaji was a Buddha, meaning a perfectly enlightened person, but he was manifesting within the Hindu cultural context. Particularly, we love Hanuman, and he was a big devotee of Hanuman. And I have right here on my heart, I have a T-shirt that has Jai Hanuman on it,
Jai
which is
Hanuman.
what I learned from them.
That's
And
beautiful.
actually, the Tibetans and KT, who is my brother, my heart brother,
Krishna Das. for those
Krishna
of you who know.
Das, he is so excited because Hanuman, the Tibetans have a legend that the Tibetan race, a mythical origin Tibetan race, was a saintly monkey, a monk monkey actually, but he resigned his monkhood because a rock goddess, like a kind of demoness, fell in love with him up in the Himalayas when he was meditating, and that's where the Tibetan people came from. And second, Hanuman himself defends Shambhala at the time of Shambhala. Hanuman becomes a key defender of the sort of enlightened way of life that is a planetary one. It's not Buddhist, it's planetary, and has to do with the wheel of time prophecy and all sorts of things like that.
And-
So
and my
Nim
spiritual name-
Karoli Baba was a total Buddha. He helped Richard Alpert become Saint Ramdas, the late Saint Ramdas. He inspires KD and all the Bhaktiwalas, and the Tibetans are learning to learn about him, and we're very interconnected with that. So thank you everyone who keeps the flame burning of Maharaji, and we all join with that as well, you know. And that's part of His Holiness's fourth aim in life, to really give more self-confidence to the Hindu tradition to stand up against modern science with their own mental science. You know, the meeting from India, the inner science with the Western outer science, then could create a truly healthy life for people, and happy and healthy life for people on the planet.
Amen. Incredible. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you, gentlemen.
Thank
It's very
you.
beautiful.